Hey, everybody. Welcome to Crossing the Line with Greg Heym. Thank you, Ray. Thank you. Here with Ray and Lena, and Jeff also clapping. We brought in extra help for the clapping because we expect it to be that good of an episode. So we're going to have some special guests later and a special announcement, teaser alert. But we're going to start with the most exciting thing, which is the jobs report from last week. But before we get to that, you know, we always talk about the weekend and stuff like that, but I'm here by myself, so am I supposed to ask myself how my weekend was? Anyhow, I had a couple of gigs. It was nice. So it's always good to have gigs, but now I'm having too many, so I think we need to cut back from a bad habit, Lena. Anyhow, we will get into the jobs report. Coming to you from Studio 1873 with the bobbleheads, of course, the three wise men. But we'll get to all of that right after this break.
Sedgh and Zuckerman is a boutique residential law firm guiding you and your clients every step of the way with a solution-oriented approach. Make sure to work with a deal maker and not a deal breaker. Contact us today at sznylaw.com.
Your dream home is closer than you think. I'm Scott Nadler, VP of Mortgage Lending at CrossCountry Mortgage, and I'm here to get you the perfect loan to match your perfect home. From first-time home buyers to seasoned homeowners, I've helped clients make their moves with confidence. Ready for a smooth, stress-free home buying experience? Let's get you moving today. Call me and let's turn those dreams into keys.
And we're back. All right, so as I'm sure most of you have heard, job growth much higher than expected last month. That's good news. We'll tell you why maybe bad news in a little bit. But 139,000 jobs, beating the 125,000 forecast. You always hear is nonstop talk about layoffs, and there are companies. You hear about Microsoft and others laying off thousands of people. A lot of that is just readjusting businesses. Everybody just assumes that we're going to see the end of job growth and we're going to see an increasing unemployment rate and more claims for unemployment. But none of that has happened yet. The unemployment rate in May was unchanged at 4.2%, still very low historically. Job growth led by healthcare, which added 62,000 workers, which is not great news. I mean, we're glad that we're adding jobs there, but healthcare is not really tied to the economy and how it's doing. A lot of that is funded by the government. Think about Medicare and Medicaid. Things that are talked about a lot these days, especially when there's a budget being discussed. That has more to do also with an aging population as well. What was good news is leisure and hospitality added 48,000 jobs, most of which were in restaurant and bars, which is good because I go to restaurant and bars a lot, and I'm sure you all do too. So we want... Lena didn't clap. I guess she stays home nights. Oh, golf clap. The library. Another thing of interest is the federal government employment. A lot of talk about when these people are actually going to be counted is no longer working there, because as long as you're actively receiving severance, you're still employed. But federal government employment down by 22,000 jobs last month and down 59,000 since January. So you're starting to see the effect of the DOGE cuts start to show up in this data. There's always a lag time with a lot of this. Wages rose stronger than expected, 0.4% last month and 3.9% higher than a year ago. So wages still outpacing inflation, so that's good. It gives people the money to spend with higher prices. The only problem is, while inflation is moving in the right direction, and that's good, strong wages can actually cause inflation to go up again. More money chasing not enough goods is always a definition that we use when we talk about inflation. So one of the things in the report we didn't like was we always have the prior 2 months get revisions. And March and April job growth was revised downward by a total of 95,000 jobs, which is a pretty big revision for 2 months. So that's not great. But let's talk about how the week started. ADP does their own private sector payroll number a couple days before the BLS's number comes out. And they were showing an increase of just 37,000 jobs. So that had a lot of concern in the markets. The administration was calling for the Fed to cut rates immediately. What are you waiting for? Let's do it now. Maybe the BLS's report has calmed them down a little bit, that they don't need to worry. the Fed is still holding to the opinion that basically we have to wait until we know what's going on with tariffs. And as we're filming this right now, there's meetings going on in London with China to try to get a deal working there. But until they know where all these tariffs stand and everything's finalized, the Fed is unlikely to make any moves, even though it looks like inflation is getting to the point where they can probably feel comfortable with a cut or two if they needed. Remember, we had a full % of short-term rate cuts last year that should start to give more and more support to the economy. So was there anything bad in this report? Of course there was, And as an economist, I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't spoil the fun for everybody, right? That's because we can't have too much fun, Ray. It's not good. So what don't we like about this report? Well, it starts with those revisions to March and April. Anytime you see almost 100,000 jobs disappear, you wonder what's going to happen to this number. Is 139 going to become 100? Is it going to become 75? What's it going to become? These surveys are done in the middle of the month too, so it's only capturing like the first 2 weeks. So a lot can change during that time. Now, there are two surveys that are used to put together this jobs report. One is what we call the payroll survey or the establishment survey. That's when they reach out to companies and ask them, how many people are working here? And that's where we get that headline number for employment, and that's where we get the wages from. The other survey is called the household survey. That's when they call Greg up and they go, Greg, are you working? And I go, yeah, I have a podcast. You should watch it or listen to it. Ray, I'd like to be happy about it, but they give anybody a podcast these days, don't they? But not this good of a podcast. Yay. I mean, we're getting people to watch an economics podcast. That takes skill. So they ask me if I'm working. If I say yes, okay. Then they'll also ask me other questions. Like if I wasn't working, the next question they ask is, well, are you looking for work? Because if you're not looking for work, you're not unemployed. You're not in the labor force. One of the things that we look for is something called the labor force participation rate. That means what % of working age adults are either working or looking for work. And that number doesn't change a lot. It's never really come back to where it was before the pandemic. But it's a number if there's any big change to it, we look at it carefully. They also collect data on part-time, full-time work, things of that nature. A lot of demographic data is in there as well. But they also calculate their own measure of employment, which seldom matches the payroll survey. Another thing worth noting is the payroll survey is twice as big as the household survey in terms of the number of respondents. So according to the household survey, we actually lost 696,000 jobs in May. It's like, wow, that's right, Lena. It's a big difference, right? We go from plus, think about it. You start the week with ADP, which is plus 37, and then BLS says, no, it's plus 139,000. And the household survey says, no, it's minus 696,000. So who's right? I don't know. Oh, wait, I'm supposed to know. Again, these seldom match. When there's that big a discrepancy, though, that makes me a little worried. You guys worried? I'm worried. Which one is more accurate? Now, also the BLS, when they do the payroll survey, they can double count people because if somebody's working multiple jobs, they'll show up twice, and they don't differentiate between full-time and part-time. It's like, how many people are working here? Thank you. Whereas the household survey will only count you once and, picks up businesses quicker than the BLS does. It takes a while for things to be on BLS's radar. But when just randomly calling people and saying, Lena, are you working? She could say, hey, I just started my own business. And like, oh, Lena's whatever. What business are you going to start, Lena?
Quick.
She's like, well, I don't know what business I would start either, but maybe a bobblehead business with famous economists on them. We wouldn't sell any of those. It's like, oh, I want the Adam Smith bobblehead. Anyway. And again, healthcare leading job growth is also a little concerning. Again, it's good that people are working and they are private sector jobs, but again, supported mostly by government. and having no direct correlation to how well the economy is doing. So, it's good that leisure and hospitality has done well. So we also found out last week, we got 2 reports. We got the JOLTS report. See, it's like jolts you out of your seat. That's basically about job openings and labor and turnover, hirings, firings, stuff like that. The only thing about JOLTS is it lags. So we don't get May data, we get April data. But to our surprise, job openings rose by 191,000 in April. And according to the JOLTS survey, there's 7.4 million jobs available. Now, that doesn't jive with what we're hearing and reading about every day. We're hearing it's harder to find jobs. There aren't as many out there. It's taking longer. Everybody's laying off. Nobody's hiring anybody. Well, that's not true. Unless in May, all the jobs disappeared. Again, the data lags. Then we also get weekly jobless claims because we get those weekly. And that showed something that makes a little more sense, that weekly jobless claims rose to the highest level in 8 months. Now that sounds scary, but don't be afraid. The number is still incredibly low. It's about 100,000 less than the historical norm. So don't worry about it. I think when it comes to things like layoffs and job openings, we're getting back to more normalized levels. During the pandemic, the numbers got ridiculous. First ridiculously too high, then ridiculously too low with unemployment claims. You have to, especially with weekly data, it's very volatile. And a lot of things can cause the numbers to shoot up. Remember, we had those hurricanes, Boeing strikes that mess with a lot of these numbers. They also mess with the jobs numbers depending on when they take the surveys. So, looking at all of this, we have 3 takeaways. Number 1, hiring's still decent and wages are growing at a good pace. That's how consumers are still spending, even with the weight of inflation going on for more than 3 years. A lot of companies are still looking for workers, regardless of what you may read in the paper or what your buddies may tell you, unless they're lying about the 7.4 million jobs. And the unemployment rate is still historically low. Unemployment claims are historically low. You add that all up, and Professor Heym, that sounds very scary, doesn't it, right? Gives the labor market a B+. It's like, B+? I thought the world's ending. Well, when you have a 4.2% unemployment rate, 7.4 million jobs, low layoffs, and better than expected job growth, what grade would you give the market? I mean, come on. At least they can go A+. But anyhow, all right, so that is the summary of the labor market. Again, the thing that's been keeping us out of recession for the last couple of years. But, again, it's normalizing a bit, but still showing a lot more strength than anybody really thought it had. But this stuff can change quickly, so we'll see how it goes. All right, we have to take a break right now for a message from some sponsors. When we come back, we're going to have 2 special guests.
Hi, I'm Evan Greenberg with Langdon Title. I specialize in title insurance across New York, helping real estate attorneys, agents, and brokers close with confidence. I solve problems fast and keep your deals moving. Contact me anytime.
Ultimate Diamond is New York City's most established family-owned jeweler. With over 65 years of experience, Ultimate is renowned for its exceptional, custom-crafted diamond jewelry, its bespoke engagement ring designs, and its ability to source rare, distinguished timepieces. Ultimate has built a legacy of timeless craftsmanship and discretion, making it a trusted name among those who value refined luxury. Learn more at ultimatediamond.com.
And we're back, and I have 2 special guests. I'm looking to have 1 special guest on the show. Now we got 2. To my left over here is our Chief Marketing Officer for Brown Harris Stevens, Matt Leone. How are you today, Matt?
What's up? It's good to be here, Greg.
Sure, you say that now, but will you say it off camera? Well, Matt's here to introduce the other person sitting at the table, so why don't you go for it, buddy?
I'm usually here for business purposes, and I am here today to say that, as one of the best shows or most watched shows on the network.
Well, we use terms like most popular, beloved, stuff like great.
Beloved, that's
greatest.
a good way around, like if it's not necessarily the top ratings draw, but I think you are at the top
for a weekly
1 or 2
show,
every week.
For a weekly show, nobody touches us.
if you look at total views, no one touches you guys because you're literally here every week. It's incredible.
well,
you're like the Cal Ripken of the More Network.
Because the studio is 5 steps from my office. That makes
very
it a lot
convenient.
That makes
very
it very
convenient. But what we do want to say is with the best show. Let's call it the best show.
Yeah,
the best
your words.
The best show deserves a second sponsor. So we obviously we have Scott Nadler, Loan Daddy, as he's known as within these circles and outside in social media circles as well. We have an incredible boutique law firm that has come aboard as our second sponsor, and we have Shar here and Todd as well. From afar, he's saying welcome. This new incredible law firm that works within real estate law is now joining not only as a sponsor but as a contributor as well. So Shar, welcome.
Thank you so much for having us. This is my podcast debut, but I have been getting ready for this my whole life by talking almost all my life. So hopefully we can keep.
You already made a smart decision. You went to the barber and said, "I want the Greg Heym haircut." So right there, you're in with me. That's
You're
it.
the only one who will understand that this is a fresh cut.
Well,
Done on my own.
Oh, you do it yourself.
That's right. On my own. Nice and easy.
Well, you did a great job with the haircut, but you did one thing wrong. You did not bring Greg a gift. Usually special guests bring him a bobblehead gift.
Actually, no, it's a sack with a $sign on it that you just
and
drop.
cash. But we're incredibly excited to continue to add to this show. I mean, this show is always not only educational within the brokerage community and outside, it's also entertaining. I mean, like the fact that you don't take it so seriously, and you could every once in a while.
I don't take it too seriously, Lena. Is that true?
you could take a jab at somebody every now and again. You could have a joke every now and again. You could talk sports. You could talk music. This show is genuinely the most entertaining show we have on the network. So it's really fun to see it have more investment into it so that we can reach a grander audience.
Well, hopefully I can be surrounded by bobbleheads now, and
What's that part in the interruption? Isn't that the show that?
Yeah, well, they got all this stuff in the background. I don't want a Canadian flag though. We don't need that. We can put that money to better use. Well, at least use it during hockey season, maybe. But it's great to have you on the show, and and people be seeing more of you.
Thank you.
How do you feel about that? Is that scary? Doing it once is one thing, but semi-regularly is.
So I'm really excited. Thank you. It's been a long time coming. When you first contacted me and said there's this podcast with the chief economist at Brown Harris Stevens, this is not what I was picturing.
Then he came into my office and said, "Can you show me where the chief economist is?" I'm like, "No, it's me."
There's like a guy at the other end that's like Bueller,
Yeah, with a
some
bow tie
incredibly boring individual. Yeah,
patches on the sleeves, kind of guy.
And I didn't picture myself preparing for the podcast by watching SportsCenter and updating some pop culture information. Most of the conversations we've had really went easy and smooth, and I think that's the best reason or the most important reason why people are relating to the podcast. You're really taking these complex issues that could be a little bit dry, complicated, boring sometimes, and really apply it to real life.
Or scary. You forgot scary today.
It could be
These
scary.
days, it's pretty scary.
But sometimes you need a level head to present it to people the right way. And, when we talk to our clients, it's all about managing expectations, explaining them that things are not always perfect. But if you understand the process and the system and how things work, it goes down a little bit easier.
Well, we both have that. We talk to brokers, explain complicated things. You have the law, I have the economy. They're two favorite things to worry about.
Who won't love us? Who
all
won't
right.
love us?
Hey, I almost became a lawyer all those many years ago. Now my son's saying he wants to go to law school. I said, you haven't even started undergrad yet. Let's one at a time.
The smartest lawyers are the ones who go to law school and don't practice. Right, the JD is very valuable outside of the world, but it's really diluted within the business. So if he does it, don't steer him away. There's a lot of potential there.
Well, look, whatever gets him to support me in my old age is fine. So he can do whatever he likes.
Listen, when this podcast is sold to Spotify for $100 million, don't forget.
Well, I don't think ESPN's going to buy it. So yes, we'll have to see. Get on that, Matt.
Well, I know I will try, but one thing another piece of business that we have to cover is that I heard that Loan Daddy has purchased Law Daddy so that you can't take that on. So you're not allowed to use that name.
Or you have
Scott
to
has
you have
purchased.
to
You
say
him.
copyright
Scott.
Loan Daddy.
Mention
Enterprises.
his name every time. And you'll wear hats. It'll say Law Daddy and Loan Daddy right next to him. It'll be nice.
Maybe for the next 30 days, I'll refer to myself that way. If business booms, we'll stick with it. But otherwise, maybe we'll find something a little bit more.
And then we have Data Daddy over here.
Yeah, no, that's not going to happen.
It's not going to.
Econo Daddy.
Econo Daddy, okay.
Or Econo Man or something like that. You know, it's put a big E on this. No. There's nothing exciting. You can't make it sound cool to be an economist.
Crossing the line with Gregory Heym. I mean, the rhyme is perfect there. What are you going to do?
Cross the line with Heym. You know, we're very simple here in our marketing. You know, when it comes to me, it's like few words better. You know, we got to be economical.
Few words is nothing. Is not what came to mind when I listened to the podcast.
Well, yeah, we use small words. That's what we shoot for.
There you go.
We always joked about being informative, edgy, entertaining. You know, all at the same time. And it's like we can't do that. It's too many things.
But I'm excited. I mean, it's nice. Sometimes the economy, you know, like we said, it may not relate to people day to day. You know, people are not grinding out the jobs reports that you just talked about so nicely, with all the different, you know, Twitter wars that we have out there or X wars that we have out there. The volatility every day is up and down, but people are really focused on how it impacts their day to day. And, you know, we're in the trenches with people who are buying, selling, you know, refinancing, taking out loans, and sometimes you can take the information that you have such an expertise on and apply it to people's, you know, transactions and daily lives. So we're excited to do that.
I wasn't expecting him to both sponsor and say nice things about me. That's.
I
really
thought I was getting paid extra.
Well, he gets a discount.
Well,
you know, he got a discount on the sponsorship. He
hold
says
on.
nice words about Greg.
We'll put a patch on my shirt. It'll be like the sports teams. There's just patches everywhere.
The teleprompter right above your head said that's what I needed to say. Nobody sees that, right?
I thought you meant the teleprompter on my forehead. That would have been more apropos. Well, you know, it is exciting to have you here and you know, bring your perspective. Now I can just, you know, pass on the legal stuff and we'll just save it for you. But it is when things change, you know, we used to have a lot more fun talking about irreverent things on this show, you know, like making fun of malls and stuff like that. But there's so much going on with the economy and tariffs, trade wars, and a whole bunch of the other stuff. Inflation's still an issue. It's good. And like you, our job is to educate. We start with our agents, but also the buyers and sellers out there and anybody who's interested.
Absolutely.
We'll let anybody watch the show. Please, please. You know, my mother stopped watching it. I got to get her back on to it. And, you know, we've tried to reach demographics. We even had my youngest nieces and nephews and my son on the show last year. That was a good show.
Excellent.
Yeah, until they all made fun of me. They all conspired to tease me.
Highest rated show or what?
Amongst Gen Z.
Gen Z, like my son. Well, you know, it's fun to hear kids' takes on, you know. We called the episode "Kids Say the Darndest Things About Economics," taking
their uncle.
And their uncle, or UG as I'm called by them.
Sometimes you need a simple perspective to these things, and what's better than their pure
out of the
thoughts,
mouth
right?
of babes.
I thought you were OG. You're UG.
No, I'm UG.
UG.
But the G doesn't stand for Greg. It stands for General. I'm called Uncle General because I'm the one who's always organizing everybody and being the grumpy one. Could be Uncle Grumpy, too.
Yeah, we get grumpy. Definitely grumpy.
I was really worried about how my nieces and nephews would pronounce my name. My full name is Shariar. For adults, I always tell them it rhymes with caviar. That's the way that we portray that. But for kids at a young age, it's Shari, hands up, R. So to this day, any kids in my family, if we do Shari, hands up in the air with the R. So I made sure my name got pronounced the right way because it goes down a rabbit hole.
And I believe in the contract we signed, Greg has to do that every time he mentions your name. So it's a good workout.
It's just another thing to remember. You know, I got to watch clocks. I got to do this, and it's explain complicated things in a funny, make them up kind of way. And now I got to do this. Well, it's great to have you on. We're going to have you stick around for the last segment. We're going to put you to work. You're here. Why not? You know.
Let's go.
And we're going to let Matt go because we don't need him anymore.
Thank you. No, but we are very excited to have you aboard, and we look forward to everything that you contribute to the show.
Thank you for having us. We're really excited to do this, and let's see where this goes.
All right, we're going to see that as soon as we come back from these messages.
This beautiful set here at Studio 1873 is brought to you by the Everset. The Everset provides full-service staging and furniture rental solutions in the New York area. For more information, please visit us at staging.theeverset.com or email us at staging@theeverset.com to request a free proposal.
What do you really need to know about buying or selling a home? First, it's serious business, and it's complicated. There's a lot of money on the table, and emotion too. You need an agent who knows the ropes. So, whether you're buying or selling your home, work with professionals who have a mastery of the craft.
And we're back with Shar Sedgh. Shar
There you go. The tongue twister.
Sedgh. You know, it's Monday morning too. You know, even economists get down on Monday morning, especially when it's like raining and it's like, yeah.
I had a friend in high school tell me, your name is too long. Can we shorten it? Shar. I said, well, you can call me whatever you want, Emily. Once you break it down to its parts,
it's syllables,
nice
right?
and easy. That's right. You got to simplify it for people sometimes.
Well,
but Shar is perfect. I'll go with one name, and hopefully my family will ride with it.
Like Charday.
There you go.
Just kidding. No, can't upset the sponsor on the first show. That's not going to work well. All right, so. Well, talk a little more specifically about what you do. You work on real estate transactions, and
Sure.
And you want to tell us, you know, how did the firm start?
Absolutely. So me and my partner Todd Zuckerman. So I'm Sedgh, Shar of Sedgh and Zuckerman. Me and my partner Todd Zuckerman opened up the firm about 7 or 8 years ago. Before that, me and him worked together for a small firm for about 8 years, and you know, sort of wanted to spread our wings a little bit and go off on our own, and we did that quickly, and luckily it took off very well. The timing was good with the market. You know, we had good relationships, good contacts that stuck with us. And, you know, we just took the business plan and tweaked it a little bit that fit our personalities and what our goals were a little bit better. The business when we opened was basically, so we only do residential transactional work. So we represent buyers and sellers. When we opened, that was 50% of our business. And the other 50% was representing lenders on the mortgage side. Yeah. So we did a lot of refinances and financing in conjunction with purchases. And, you know, when we first started, rates were low. And
remember those days? How great was that?
Exactly. But that's a you know, saying rates are low is a very, you know, how do you define low?
Well, right? the one thing we point out too is, and I always have to credit Steve Kligerman, the head of our development marketing division, for reminding me of this. You know, people say, well, rates are high. And it's like, that's not true. Even now, they're sitting at about 6.8 and change.
Absolutely.
That's about almost a full % lower than the historical average over the last half century. So you get spoiled by low inflation and 3% rates. That's all people remember, especially Gen Z. They're like, wait a minute, I was told I was going to get a 3% rate. What happened to it? And, you know, inflation is coming down, but unfortunately the volatility of a trade war, which you see in the stock market, usually when the stock market gets very volatile, bonds are the preferred investment and rates come down. But the exact opposite has been happening. So, you know, plus we have budget issues and stuff like that. But when is that news?
So at some point, people realize what the new normal is, right? So people who were in the market before and saw those 3% rates, 4%, under 3%, and now they come back and they say 7%, what are we doing here? Is very different than somebody who's just coming into the market and sees, okay, this is what the cost is right now. Right. How do I make this work? You know, the example I think of is, you know, if Scott was here, Scott Nadler, Loan Daddy.
The Loan Daddy, yes.
We need to say a little every time we say his name. But if you would tell him, you know, he's a little bit younger than us, and say, pack of gum costs $1, right? He'd say, well, pack of gum costs $1. That's normal. But when we were growing up, a stick of gum, that's what we called it, was how much? How much was your juicy fruit growing up? 25 cents.
Well, I used to get the bazooka for like 5 cents a piece, and it had a bazooka comic in it. Now Ray knows this stuff.
That's right.
Remember that Bazooka those. Joe? You got the little comic.
Absolutely.
You always ripped it trying to open it because it was.
Yeah, it was the bubble tape or the gum that used to come with your baseball cards, which apparently never go good or bad depending who you are.
Did you ever watch that guy? Wasn't Don West used to do the shop at home stuff on TV, and he'd get so excited. He'd be like, look at this McGuire rookie card, and then they dare him to eat like gum from 1980s packs, and he would. Then he knocked the whole thing of cards over, and he's swimming in it. Anyway, I think he went into wrestling after that because the guy could announce his podcast. Greg talking about inflation.
Who needs steroids when you have old Bazooka Joe gum?
Man, I'm telling you that. But the flavor goes away before you can say like this is great gum. It's like wah wah wah.
5 cents, 5 bites, and you're out. That's the way it was.
I know it's awful.
But that's the reality though. So if you were in the market for a stick of gum for $0.25, now it's $1. You're looking at it like what's going on here. But if it's $1 and you can afford $1 and you need the gum, it's the same thing with buying an apartment or a condo co-op in the city or in the suburbs and the surrounding areas. If you can afford it and you need it, this is where it's at. Yeah. You should be executing on it. You shouldn't be looking for those days because I think they're very far from coming back.
Well, I'm always asked, we joke about this all the time, when's a good time to buy a home? And it's always when you want or need one.
Exactly. And can afford it.
I would say that's a given.
It needs to be said.
That's what Loan Daddy's for. Let him answer that question.
Well, Peter Griffin, I don't know if you've seen his video.
Yeah, I did see this on how much home Peter Griffin could afford. There's a lot of estimating in that video. But that's why I knew he was going to be fun to work with because any guy that thinks of stuff like in terms of Family Guy is all right in my book. So we talked about rates changing over time. How has the role of an attorney in all this changed? Now we have the idea of co-broke commissions having to be, stated and the whole idea of buyers, brokers may have to go out and get their own commission from. Now, maybe we haven't seen the full effect of that, but how has your job changed over the years?
So the biggest mistake that we see regarding this specifically is that people think that the broker's commissions can be negotiated once you find a buyer or once you find a house, right? So I see sellers coming to me and saying, hey, I agreed to a 6% commission, but I read this article that says the buyer has to pay his broker. Well, the answer is yes and no. All these things need to be negotiated up front when you're accepting a buyer's offer. And really, even before that, when you're signing your listing agreement with your agent. So basically, the way it works is that when you agree to a 6% commission, your broker has 3% commission that he can offer to a buyer's broker. So when a buyer's agent is looking for prospective properties for their client, their tendency is naturally to look at the ones where they're offering higher commissions. Now, if you're only paying your broker 3% and he's keeping 2 and giving 1 to the buyer's broker is going to look to his client and say, all right, you need to supplement the balance of this commission. I'm not working for 1%. So really the biggest difference we've seen is that the successful agents, the experienced ones, are really getting us involved early in the process so we can help steer the expectations of the clients. Blooper reel.
We leave that stuff in. It's the best part of it.
So we really want to get involved early so we can explain these complex issues, especially now that they're new and people are trying to understand how it impacts their day-to-day. And I always tell my brokers, once we get a system down to how to address these things, it becomes the new normal. And I promise you something else complicated and irrational will come up that we need to deal with. And, since we opened up the firm in 2017-18, I can list countless number of things where everybody thought, all right, the entire industry is going to change, is going to collapse because this new disclosure change or, rates and markets. But
now the property condition disclosure statement,
So
when I bought my house, obviously I got the credit. Now you can't do that.
You can't do that. And I did, I would say 20 to 25 presentations to brokers who were stressing about this more than anything else in their lives.
It's so much easier to say, I got nothing to say, here's $500.
Yeah, I don't know to the best. You're right. It limits your liability. But again, what we did was we set a system up. You fill out the form. Your contract says, hey, that form that I signed for you, you can't rely on it, can't sue me. It's to the best of my knowledge, and you're required to do your own due diligence. And really, it's become an afterthought now that we're, probably about a year or so out of the rule changing, and that's become the new normal. And now we're dealing with this, and once we deal with this, it'll be something else that we need to. So,
things change a little in economics too, and you may have noticed we haven't had a trade war like ever. So that that's news. It's funny because when the financial crisis happened, like
which one?
The most recent one in 2007-ish, 8.
Right.
It's like I didn't know what a credit default swap is. Like, I don't work on Wall Street. I don't think about these things.
That's right.
I know there's mortgage-backed securities. I didn't know that there was this, quote, insurance that had no capital to back it up like regular insurance does. And it's like, great. And my son had just been born in August of 2007.
Congratulations on that.
Wow. And now he's going to college. Yeah, I didn't know you back then. Or maybe we crossed paths somewhere. Who knows? But it's when things change, you have to get, and then the uncertainty drives everybody nuts. And then by the time you get certainty, something else has changed, right?
So it's true. A lot of the terms we used to use for cryptocurrencies, volatility, you don't know what to expect with it. That's what's happening with the market right now. Right. Every day you wake up, you don't know what's going to be in the news that's going to impact the highs and lows of the market and where people's mentality is. Yeah. We've found it important to keep our firm small so that our clients and brokers get individual attention. We're not relying on people who are coming and going out of the workforce and the firm. And at the same time, by representing buyers and sellers, representing lenders, we have a relationship with title companies. We really have a well-rounded approach to this, and we can really... So
you can just bring everybody together and solve all the problems.
There you go. I can do a closing in a podcast like that. It's no problem.
See? See, and we have Scott on. We'll have the two of you here, and we can change the world. Who knows?
Absolutely.
We'll just divide it up.
Well, he is a world traveler these days.
The guy is everywhere. Yeah, and he never invites us to hang with him.
Oh, man.
Not once. So we got a little bit of a weak invite to go watch a Knicks game at a bar with him, but...
Well, we have season tickets, so maybe we can catch
All right, so you want to talk about things changing, right? So the Knicks go from the feel-good story of the year.
Right.
They were exciting to watch. Brunson, amazing, clutch guy, Cat. It seemed like they had the pieces in. We didn't expect them to beat Boston. They beat Boston. It's like they're in the conference finals.
Is this guy from Boston over there? Come on,
No, we don't clap. That's their job.
Oh, that's their thing?
Wow. We don't let them near the mics. They don't let us clap. But, it shows you how quickly it can go south. You go to the conference finals, you have this choke in game one. You don't seem to recover from it, and bye-bye coach. Yeah. So here's the big question, since you lawyers know everything. Who's the next coach of the Knicks?
So that's a great idea, great question. So just like where rates are going, we have no idea. But we love to speculate, and I'm happy to do that with you.
Go for it. I make wacky predictions all the time. Only mine can ruin people's lives if I get them really wrong. But this is a Knicks coach.
So we quickly talk about why he got fired. Leon Rose is taking credit for that, or not credit, but he's saying it was my decision. But I heard one of these talking heads on TV talking about how Dolan was busy the last couple of years with the Sphere in Las Vegas.
Right.
So he was focused there. So Leon Rose came in, took control of the roster of the team, and honestly, more hope these last 2 years than we've had in 20-something years. But now that the Spheres project is done and it's running itself...
And the Eagles will play there until they're,
Exactly. Or Dead and Co.
Until they're flying up to heaven,
Exactly. So he's back to ruining the team.
He did a good job with the Rangers, too, when he was... So... I better watch out. I could put on the facial recognition. I won't be allowed into Madison Square Garden.
My brother is on that list, by the way.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, but he somehow managed to watch several games and concerts. James Dolan doesn't watch this, does he?
I guess we're going to find out if him or his lawyers watch it.
But as far as the coach, I went to Hofstra. I was there when Speedy Claxton was the point guard and Jay Wright was the coach. I'm a big Jay Wright guy. Unfortunately, they asked him recently if he was interested. He said he's enjoying his retirement. I think that just means he doesn't
you work
fit
a couple hours a week
anymore.
Announcing games, you make good money, and you can look at your 2 NCAA championships.
I'm convinced his nice suits don't fit anymore in retirement. But we'll see. But the one name, you want to get Giannis, you might want to get a coach that would attract him. But the one name that nobody's talking about, Mark Jackson.
Well, it's funny you mention Hofstra because I went to grad school at Hofstra.
Very nice.
My undergrad was St. John's. Now, I missed the Jackson era. I got there in '88.
All right.
By then, he's playing well in the Knicks. I think Mark Jackson was a very smart player. He got a lot of beef in his time with the Knicks in certain periods, but I think he did a good job. He's done a good job where he's been before.
Right.
It's funny that you would think that his name would come up. But the names I'm hearing, a lot of them are just assistants. And we're not hearing Malone. Like, that's another thing. This guy just won a championship a couple of years ago.
It's true.
And, obviously his team didn't do better when they got rid of him because, they went out pretty quickly. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. I don't know I think, you could say defensively they're terrible, but that's not the coaching. The players are not great defensive players. Some of them. And Leon Rose deserves all the blame because he's the one that traded 5 first-round draft picks.
Mikal Bridges.
Gee, you think you get Giannis for 5 first? I think you get Giannis for 3 first-round draft picks. I thought the Eddie Curry trade was bad back in the day when they made it.
Boy.
This is much worse than that. And not that Mikal Bridges isn't a good player. He is a good player, but is he a 5? Has anybody ever been traded for 5?
Well, you were hoping, but he's definitely not. I was telling my nephew, I remember going to the Garden as a kid, and if the Knicks scored 120 points in a game, the whole stadium would get free pizza or free something. And it happened so rare that you almost never got the free pizza. But the Knicks were giving up 120 points easy against the Pacers. So you're right. I don't know if Tibbs could have helped them out more on the defensive side, but I really would have loved to see them come out of timeouts with more set plays, easy baskets, rather than just seeing...
And Brunson not thinking he's Jordan and he's got to take every shot. I mean, he's clutch, but, they start to key on people. And that's the thing about Indiana. The ball just goes boom, 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 whoever's open. And that's the cohesion on the offense that Clyde's always talking about in the games. Look, this is very similar to the Yankees situation, when they fired Buck Showalter after losing in the playoffs, and he made a bunch of blunders in the game 5 of that. Most notably, not bringing in John Wetland, bringing Jack McDowell in to try to close it. And then when they got Joe Torre, they're going to get worse, and the rest is history.
So the question is always, the fan base wants to get a name that's familiar, a big name that's going to make a splash, but very often you see the most successful coaches and managers being guys who may not have been well known, a little bit under the radar with a brilliant mind to come in and set their career.
Like Phil Jackson? Eric Spoelstra?
Isaiah Thomas.
No, Isaiah.
Oh, we don't say that name?
No, I mean, he did enough damage. I mean, the guy caused the league to go under.
Yeah, 100%.
I mean, he's a great player. You can't deny that, but that would not go over well.
Yeah, no, that was an example of a bad example.
I mean, and Dolan still wants to have him involved. I don't think you can rule him out. We'll see.
It's just whatever the right decision is, we're sure that they won't make it. So
does Pat Riley want to come back?
I would love that hard-nosed defense.
Well, he coached to the team he had. Lakers, it was all Showtime.
Absolutely.
He comes to the Knicks, it's like, no, we're going to give up 85 points a game because, Anthony Mason's not James Worthy and, all those, Magic Johnson on this team.
Right.
I think those are what the great coaches do.
So people don't realize Jordan was averaging 30, 32, 34 points in a league where you weren't scoring more than 100 points very often. So that's my take on Jordan being the GOAT. That's it.
Well, on that happy note, we're going to end it here. Thanks so much for being with us, Shar. It's great to have you on board sponsoring. It's good. And we'll have you on from time to time and talk about the Knicks or whatever you want to talk about.
I look forward to it. It made me feel really comfortable. And there
you
go. I'm going to stop doing that. We're going to have a signal separately. Or I may have to start saying funny and interesting things to get it. We'll work
that's what I've had to do, so you should have to do that. But we put anti-anxiety medicine in the mug. So
it tasted like a single malt. Is that what you call single?
Well, I'm out of Macallan. I got to get some more in.
A bobblehead or a bottle. We'll see what we come with next time.
Maybe a bobblehead that you drink out of.
A flask bobblehead. There you go.
On that note, thanks to Shar.
Wait, is that what we're ending with?
Thanks. Yes. We're all going to need drinks after this. Thanks to Matt for popping in. Thanks to Lena. Thanks to Ray. Thanks to Jeff for showing up.
Thank you. Scott Nadler, we look forward to having you.
And Lone Daddy,
guys,
come back soon. And I miss my buddy. And again, thanks again to everybody supporting the show by watching it and to all our sponsors. And we look forward to crossing the line with you next week.